Hello, I'm Nikki. You may have landed on this page because you wanted to find out more about the podcast, and so I thought I would tell you a little bit about it and how it all began, because it's actually been in the works for about 3 years. I had the idea many years ago when I was just listening to them all of the time in the car when I was cooking dinner, and I absolutely loved them. Anyway, I had the idea and it was time to launch it, and it launched in January 2018. And I wanted to talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart and pops up all the time in terms of my coaching clients as well, is this idea of success and what it actually means to us and how we can define our own version of success. Because these days we're all grown-ups and we all have many different flavors and elements that we need to incorporate into our life. And I wanted to engage in lots of interesting conversations with people who are really doing life on their terms. So who are my listeners? Oh, my listeners are so lovely. They are so loyal and so supportive, and they're always sharing pictures of where they're listening or what they're doing. Maybe they're cooking their dinner at the same time, or driving while their kids are asleep in the back, or they're on their commute. And I really love that engagement and that discussion about the episode. Because of the content, there is usually quite a lot to discuss afterwards, and people want to share their thoughts and their opinions, or even have that sense of like, oh, me too, I'm glad that I'm not the only one. What has surprised me? I think the biggest surprise about the podcast is how quickly that it's grown and how engaged people are, and how I think, like me, people have been missing this type of conversation. I know online there can be a lot of outward sort of perfect life and people who have everything together and they know what they're doing. However, we all know that none of that happened overnight. We know that it probably took a lot of hard work or a leg up or a lot of determination and focus and all of that stuff. So I think that that's been the biggest surprise, is that actually people are getting really motivated to maybe do the project that they've been sitting on for a while. On my favorite bits of the podcast, I love talking to the people that I do. I always learn something. I always feel like I'm a better person at the end of it. I always feel like I've made a new friend, and I've been quite strategic and thoughtful in the way that I've chosen my podcast guests. I always want people to be nice and to be candid and open and big-hearted and really sort of sensitive to the fact that people may be listening to this and right at the beginning of their business process. And I have loved actually speaking to every single one of my guests so far, and I really hope that that continues. I am asked this all the time, where people say, I want to start a podcast, what do I do first? I've actually created a video on this, so you can check out my YouTube, or I'll link it here somewhere so you can have a look. I think the first thing is really just start and really get clear on why you're doing it. Get clear on what you want to communicate, what your niche is, what your topics are. Even if it's just not one particular topic, think about the areas in which you really excel. So for me, it was important to do some topics around the area of coaching or stuff that comes up in conversations. You'll never see me discussing like science theories or anything, because I just don't understand them. And then I think it's about getting really clear on how you want to present your podcast. All the technology stuff is in the video, you can have a look. But when do you want to release it? What will be really useful for your audience? Who are your audience? And how can you put the structures and systems in place in order to get that content out there? For us, we have an Asana workflow. I know it sounds really geeky, but that has really helped in terms of making sure we know what's been recorded and what is still needing to be edited and all of that stuff. Another thing that I do is, before I interview somebody, I always send a template so my guest knows what to expect and what I need in advance, and all those kind of logistical things. It makes everything flow much easier. So exciting times on the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. If you're a brand or you're a company that is interested in collaborating, or also if you feel like you have a guest that I absolutely should interview, I want this to be a community, and I want to find people or products or things that I haven't maybe discovered yet. So feel free to fill out the contact form, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.